So what is happening in the property market right now? Well, today's video, we're going to focus on some of the top headlines and do a deep dive into them. So we're going to be looking at housing prices being more affordable than a year ago, according to the Halifax. We're also going to look at the student market and the way that that's affected as a result. Then we're going to look at more community-based feel. So knowing your local areas, keeping an eye on what's going on abreast of the situations. And then I'll give you some of my predictions. So first things first. The first thing I want to look at is, and we're using the BBC as our source for this one, housing more affordable than a year ago, says the Halifax. Well, any of you who've listened to any of my previous videos will know that my thought process around this is we're comparing apples and pears, because what's happened during the last year plus ago is that we've had this mini boom, this completely bizarre economic market when it comes to the property world, and we've seen overinflated property prices. But nonetheless, houses more affordable than a year ago, and this to me says that we're seeing some slowing within the property market. As I previously mentioned in previous predictions, I don't personally believe that there is going to be this halting crash within the property market, seeing it drop off a cliff like the 2007, 2008 time. But what we are definitely seeing is a slowing versus the overinflated prices of a year ago. So does it really matter? Well, if you look at the data, there is officially still a deficit of properties in the UK in terms of building properties is not happening anywhere near enough. This has led to relaxed planning and permitted development, but we're still not meeting targets. So therefore, according to Zoopla, there is actually a reduction in the properties that are currently on the market. So let me get the actual source, not that I believe most of this, if I'm very honest. The figure that has been given to us by Zoopla is that there is a 7% drop in stocks for sale on the property market. And this is compared to 2019. So, my thoughts around this being overinflated. But if we put that into some sort of perspective, there is a reduction in supply on the market. And I think that's because people put their properties on the market when the challenge hits. People aren't foreseeing these problems. And I'm saying people in general, this is normal homeowners as well as property investors. You and I, as educated property investors, our plan is to try and see what's going to be happening within the market to plan ahead. We've talked about fixing mortgage rates because of the interest rate changes that we're seeing. And we'll touch upon those in the not too distant future. Demand has reduced 18% due to mortgage rates, according to Zoopla. So this is your average person. So if demand is dropping, and we are not yet seeing the supply increase, but we are going to, because challenges are happening for many people. We're seeing the knock-on effects of interest rate rises, and many people have seen their mortgages going from low fixed rate to high variable rate, and they can manage that for so long. More and more of them are going to come to the market. So more and more of those properties coming to the market creates huge opportunity for educated property investors, in my very humble opinion. Because what we're seeing is a drop in the housing stock on the market, but that doesn't mean that there aren't people with problems within their properties, whether it be nightmare tenants, whether it be interest rate increases affecting them negatively, reducing their cash flow, whether it be in that people are downsizing. Recently, Mark Homer, the co-founder of Progressive, did his mid-August review, and if you haven't watched that, we'll put some links down. But one of the things that he did say was there is a massive demand right now in the 1 and 2 bedroom space, more so than the 3 and the 4 bedrooms. So what does that mean? Downsizers, people who are empty nesters, people who are no longer needing to utilise as much space as they were previously, maybe looking to free up some capital, reduce down their mortgages, and therefore moving down, scaling back within their property portfolios, whether that's rental properties or whether that is home owners. This is a huge opportunity for you to be doing some more direct to vendor marketing. And the reason I believe that there is a massive opportunity for direct to vendor marketing is, if you look at statistics, so I'm always going to refer to source. The EIG property auctions are saying that in the number of lots sold in 2022 and 2023 compared to 2018 and 19, 42% saw an increase of over 30%. What does this mean? Auction properties are growing. I believe that that's because auction is a fast purchase option, i.e. those people who are facing financial hardship, they may be facing repossession, they've got nightmare tenants, they've allowed it to continue and continue and continue. This is a last resort. So people are putting their properties into auctions. It's massively boosted auction properties. But what if you're educated enough to get in there first? I know that I've never bought at an auction. I've bought pre-auction and post-auction. But what I do is I sell at auction, and what I tend to sell are the properties that are either problematic for me, I just want a fast sale to get rid of them. And so if we're seeing that, there is definitely an interim in there. There's going to be a core contingent of those properties that you could create a win-win situation with the vendor with, or maybe get in there before they're forced to sell at an auction for the fast sales. So huge opportunities. Because there are quite a few points within this housing index that I'm going to touch upon. One of them is going to be around the average average home right now? The average home cost is 6.7 times the average annual earnings of a full-time worker. Now, I have a few different viewpoints around this because this is talking about an individual salary. It's assuming one buyer within a house. If it's 6.7 times, if you've got two individuals, both with the average salary in the UK, currently, according to Statista, 33,000 is the average salary. 6.7 times it, rough maths tells you that your mortgage allowance, your availability is 221,000, but Halifax is saying that a typical house costs 285,044. So what that therefore means is those couples or groups or people coming together are going to be able to buy properties, but what about the individual person? Massive opportunity for rent. Let's look at different cross sections within the market because we're looking at homeowners, home buyers in general. What I do want us to look at right now is actually the student market. There will be some of you who have properties that maybe you wanted to rent out for students and you feel like you've missed the boat, or you think, well, now's not a good time to do that, when actually understanding what's happening within the market is absolutely key. So yes, there are going to be a core contingent of those students who are starting in September on their university courses who've already months and months ago organised their university accommodation. What about those students who didn't get on their first choice of course and they're going to be going through clearing? They're not likely to be starting university in September. A big proportion of those will be starting in January. So now is a fabulous time to start liaising with your estate agents and also working with your current landlords who have empty properties within the student market or fit for the student market. So let me look at some stats from Property Industry Eye. The UK has a record 2.3 million full-time students, 91,000 more than this time last year. We always look at basic economics. There's a huge demand right now, but there's not an oversupply of these properties, with the university age population projected to grow over the next decade. So this isn't a case of if you're not in it now, you've missed the boat. There are opportunities coming forward. Timing is absolutely key. So I'm going to give you some more stats according to these things. Property Eye also says, according to Savills research of the UK's top 30 student cities, the number of full-time students has increased by 6.3% over the same period. Massive opportunities there. Forecast to become more widespread, with StuRents predicting a shortfall of 450,000 student beds by 2025. So now is a really, really great time for you to get into the student market once you know your areas. You know my thoughts around this. You've got to know your area really well. You've got to understand what's happening within the market and you've got to make it fit for purpose. So what I'm going to focus on right now is knowing what's going on within your community, because as a property investor, quite often we are damned. You want your community on side, and there is something that is in the headlines, and I think anyone who watches what's going on in the property market will have seen this. If you haven't, definitely worth a look. So the Crooked House, recently being sold, lo and behold, after recently being sold, there was a huge fire on the 5th of August which gutted the entire building. Now this is a very much loved building within that community. There is a bit of a theme of this happening, and it's not just within Birmingham. I know it happens in Liverpool, it happens in London, it happens absolutely everywhere. A lot of these much loved buildings, you know, there's huge protests, there's people sitting inside the buildings, there's people sitting on the outside of them. They want them to remain within the community spirit. However, because of planning laws, changes within the market, there are people who are buying the buildings and then, you know, call it coincidence, call it fate, call it unlucky, call it an accident. But these buildings are then being demolished because they are unsafe as a result of fire in this instance. So I want you to be looking at what's happening within your local market. I'm a firm believer that you want to get the community on side. If there is much loved buildings, the more that you can get the community on side, understanding why bringing these unloved, unused buildings back into use as homes, the more likely you are to have less petitions against it, less challenges, and the more likely you are to get the planning passed. To put some information here, a petition to rebuild it has amassed more than 18,500 signatures. Public meetings are being held. There's a chance for concerned residents to vent their anger. They were the actual words used. I'm a firm believer that you want to keep the community on side. You want to bring back these unloved, unused buildings, but you want to do it in the right and ethical way. So if you're looking at some of those much loved properties within your local area, do the right thing. So as you know, at the end of every video, I give you my predictions, whether they are right or wrong. You know, it's just what I'm seeing happening. My predictions are, I think we're going to see a minimum of 1, possibly 2 more Bank of England base rate increases. I think that in turn is going to knock on to drop down inflation, and this is all going to help with the slowing of the property market. Channel 4 News debate with Danny Hansen of AJ Bell. She predicts there are going to be 2 more increases in the interest rate to reach that 5.7%. They're seeing inflation has come down, and now down further, 6.4% since June. What does this mean for mortgages? Well, 4 months until Rishi Sunak's pledge of a 5%. Are we going to meet it? Who knows? But I do think things are going to have to happen as a result. So there is more call for the rent reform to be supercharged and sped through. We're only at the second reading of the House of Commons. It's not yet calendared as government is recessed for summer. How funny. So there's no need for us to act really fast as a result of it. What I do think is now is the right time for you to get educated. Now is the right time for you to keep abreast of this information, understand what's happening within the market, know and expect that there are likely to be increases before there are decreases, but you need to be prepared and ready. So there is a downloadable resource that you are eligible to get completely free. It is a report that's going to give you top tips on how to utilize this within the buy-to-let market and understand what's happening within the market. So if that's something that you're interested in, download it and you can achieve more and more information in an informed way. Now, also, if you're enjoying what we're doing here, you do want to like, you do want to subscribe, and you want to be notified because we've got lots of exciting things coming up. Got an interview with Nick Thorpe, one of our mentors, coming up that's going to be released next week. I've done a video recently around the catchment areas and how to leverage those, how to invest in the right areas to get those renters who are going to move in and hopefully never move out. You want to stay current, up to date and abreast of what is happening within the property market, so you need to make sure that you are tapping into this information. And I will see you in a future video with more predictions.